So I think it's just preparing to go live now.
Okie dokie.
So live. I'm just going to go back to the Zoom call.
I've got a little live on YouTube tag here.
Brilliant. So guys, welcome to David Bailey and my live.
Oh.
And what we're doing today is on this session, we're going to cover and give you a little bit of flavor and in fact share you in some of our secrets of how we find direct to vendor leads and deals. And I think in this market today, I know it's very, very important. Now, obviously, as you know, the stamp duty holiday has been extended and the 95% mortgages have come in. So I reckon, and David, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's going to be a lot of people in the market, first-time buyers looking for deals, and you're going to be competing. We as investors are going to be competing with them. And the thing is, it's a slightly different angle, right? Because ours is purely a financial angle, whereas theirs is an emotional angle. So you often find that when you're competing with the first-time buyers and homeowners, you never get a look in. You always sort of second, criteria is always numbers, whereas their criteria is slightly different. So I reckon there's going to be a big sort of buzz in the market, big mini boom that's going to carry on, which is what we're seeing currently. And I think there's going to be a more fight for deals. So I think this is the perfect time. I don't know how you feel, David, where people really should be looking for those direct to vendor leads.
Absolutely, yeah. I just think we have to be really creative about it to find those deals. As you say, you don't want to be competing with, first-time buyers trying to find fixer-uppers and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
Great. So guys, what we're going to do on today's live session is we're going to give you an overview of a flavor of how we do it, share a couple of site finding strategies and stuff. So shall we just crack on with that, David?
Yes, please do.
Okay, great. So you able to sort of share some of the slides that we've got prepared for this live?
Here we go. So there we go. Can you see that?
Absolutely, yes.
Brilliant.
So that's come onto the screen. I'm just checking whether that's actually going on to the YouTube. It should be able to go on. Yes, I can see that on the live session itself. So yeah, perfect. So guys, just a very, very quick introduction for those of you who don't know David and me. I'm Manni and I'm with David here. Shall we just quickly give you a little bit of background about who we are and, a little bit about us. So in a nutshell, that's me. Prior to getting into property full-time in 2010, I was an IT consultant, believe it or not. And I did a degree in business and computing, more with a business focus. And my previous life, prior to doing developments and finding direct-to-vendor leads, was mainly doing 3 and 4 bedroom houses and converting them into professional house shares with a high spec and renting them out to professionals. So that's me in a nutshell. And that just gives you a little bit of flavor of who I am and what sort of projects I've done, literally just to give you a bit of background about me. So over to you, David.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a few of your creds there.
That's just a little bit of accreditation of me. Finalist at the Property Developers Awards last year. I'm also part of a very, very reputable network called the Real Developers and Trusted Land Network, who's run by Alex Harrington Griffin, and really proud to be part of that sort of, continuous learning, as it were.
Brilliant. Thanks, Manni. My name is David Bailey. I've been running my property business, PNT Property, for over 10 years now. And that's transitioned over that 10 years from doing sort of straightforward, simple refurbs through to heavy, refurbs, conversions, and on into full new builds. Here's some of the projects that we delivered in the last year or two. All of them sourced off market, and all of them, which delivered 6-figure profits. Prior to becoming a property developer, I was actually a chartered landscape architect for a decade and worked on some fantastic schemes such as sort of Battersea Power Station and the London 2012 Olympic Stadium. So I've got great grounding there in both planning and construction, which obviously really, really key to what we're trying to do here in terms of finding those deals off market and creating development opportunities.
Thanks, David. Yeah, go for it.
So that's me. Just to sort of pick up on Manni's point, really about networks, and that they are so important. I run a networking group called the Southeast Property Developers Club. We meet monthly, and actually where I met Manni was on one of Ranjan Bhattacharya's masterminds. This was back in 2017, and it's just so important, isn't it, to network and learn.
The rest is history.
Yeah. So, why source off market? There's three really key reasons I think it's such a good strategy to source off market. The first one is that you're just not competing with the crowds. You're fishing in a completely different pond. And whilst other people are chasing deals on the market, maybe through commercial agents, maybe through auctioneers, you are getting that direct contact with the vendor, and that rapport building with the vendor is so important to find those development deals where you can find someone who will work with you to give you the time that you need to get planning and create a viable development site. The second reason is that you can massively increase your return on investments. The reason behind that is that effectively, whilst you're working away to get the planning, if you can find the right vendor who will give you that time to work on the planning, you can also work into that process enough time to get all your ducks in a row, to get all your finance and your build organised. That means that you only have to put the bulk of your money into a deal on day when you actually buy the site, and then you can actually start building, rather than having to hold a site for a long time before you can actually put a spade in the ground. That really helps your return on investment. And the third point is, I've already mentioned it, is getting your ducks in a row, is using that time that you've got whilst you're getting planning and after you've got planning to get everything organised. And that effectively helps you to drive down your costs as well, because as we all know, if you've got the time, you can reduce your costs by seeking out the best quotes and getting yourself organised, and there's less surprises in that development process.
So David, just really, so speaking in practical terms then, so let's say you're doing a simple sort of HMO strategy, but using the direct to vendor, you'd put in your planning, say for example, you're doing say 7 or rooms or above, you'd put in your sui generis application before you even actually complete on the purchase, right? In our strategy.
Exactly that. Then you know that you're going to get planning, or if you don't get planning, you're not obliged to buy the property. That's made completely transparent to the vendor. And also, as well as getting the planning, you work in some time after you've got the planning to get all your ducks in a row, get the finance organised, get your, if you need upgrades on utilities, that kind of things, you can get those all set up, get quotes in from builders, etc., and get everything really organised for day one when you actually put your money in and buy the site.
And, I think absolutely correct. And, I think from my side, how I see it, and I decided to go into direct to vendor is because I was really frustrated week on week looking at open market deals. And you had really big sourcing companies coming with you to development sites with planning with 20, 30, 40, whatever units. But whatever the size of the site was, whatever it was, once the site's got planning, they've already taken the cream of the site anyway, right? And you're left with something which doesn't essentially work. Numbers just don't work. Yeah,
exactly. So you've got two options really. You can either buy something with planning, but you generally have to pay what we feel is too much for it. There's always seems to be someone out there who will cut the margins down. Or you buy something without planning, but then you've got to sit there and hold it for a while whilst you get that planning. And of course, you might not get the planning. You could be into a long drawn out battle with the planners. So it really just de-risks and takes so much uncertainty out of the process of development.
And David, I think in my view as well, people could do a bit of both, right? You maybe don't want to do just direct to vendor. You might want to mix it, match it. So you have that, consistent pipeline where you're probably doing some deals through agents. you know, maybe commercial agents can also probably be a good source of deals potentially.
Yeah.
But then obviously you're competing with other investors as well in the open market, right?
Sure.
But you could mix and match this deal with your open market strategy as well to maintain that sort of bloodline in your business, which in my view is creating a deal pipeline.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the project we were just talking about earlier, Manni, was actually sourced on the market. It was advertised on the market, but without planning. We agreed to buy that subject to planning. So we use a lot of the same tools that you use when you're going direct to vendor. It's just that it happened to be advertised on the market, and there was a lot of complications with the site that we were able to, you know, we would never have bought that site unconditionally, you know, but we did because we were able to sit down with the vendor and say, you know, we will buy the site if A, we can sort the access out, B, we can sort the services out, and then we sort of came to a good agreement.
Well, you're de-risking it pretty much, isn't it? That's the real word. People are looking to manage their risks, and that risks is such a big thing in development projects of any property project, right? And that's what you're trying to do with this strategy, is de-risking it right from the start. And like you said, you know, all of the other bits that you mentioned earlier.
That's it. Shall we go through the process, Manni, quickly?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So what I'm about to share with you is a 10-step process, which is an overview, obviously, just because we're just giving you a very quick flavor of the whole process that we cover on our, you know, the training day itself. So first step is you obviously have to find the sites. Now, in this section, on the day itself, we teach you 11 different site finding techniques. And we will be covering 2 of those techniques on the live call today. So finding sites, you know, it could be corner plots and class M. Those are the 2 ones we're going to cover today. But there's 9 other such strategies that we cover on the actual course itself. So number 2, once you found the sites, you then write to the owner. Now, finding the sites, we use a software called Nimbus Maps. And on the training day, we give you a 14-day free trial. And there's a discount on the price as well that we've liaised with Nimbus. And we've got that discount secured up front for people doing our training course. So first step, finding the sites using Nimbus Maps. Second step is writing to the owner. And here we use a software called DocMail, which is a digital software. And basically you have a document template and you have all the addresses in a spreadsheet, and then you just combine the 2 to create a mailing list. And the DocMail software does it for you at the back of the scenes. So essentially all the letters are sent out all digitally. You don't have to, you know, print them out and post them manually like we did it back in the day. So that's the second step.
Yeah, it's really important, isn't it? Because it's a numbers game, isn't it, Manni? You know, you do have to send out a lot of these letters to get the right number of leads to then convert to actual deals that you're going to do.
Absolutely. The second thing is, obviously, third thing, the step is once you've sent the letters out, you will be contacted. You know, often it's either by email or by telephone call. That's how I found. David, what's your experience?
Yeah, mainly telephone calls, actually. Sometimes email. But, you know, it's really important to get that connection with a person. So generally, you know, if someone wants to interact only by email, it's probably not going to go anywhere. If you need to sort of convert it up to a telephone call and then a face-to-face meeting to really, those are the projects or the deals that are going to go somewhere.
Brilliant. Okay. So step number 4 is basically you then arrange to meet up, as David just said, because all about getting a rapport, developing a rapport with the owner is obviously a very, very key aspect of this process. And obviously in COVID times, that's not possible. So your COVID handshake would do, which is obviously now the rage at the moment. You then meet them on site, you understand the site, you get to see where the opportunity is. You also obviously do your due diligence on the site and the back end. That takes us on to the 5th step. You carry out the numbers. So the numbers is very much, once you've seen the site, you see the opportunity, whether it's, extending the site, creating another dwelling on the site, just a big HMO out of it, or a development aspect to it. You then need to run the numbers whereby you're working out what the comparisons are, and you're working out what your offer would be effectively, right? And we give you that template as well as part of the course, don't we, David?
That's right. Yeah.
Step 6 is then once you've met the owner, worked out what your scheme is going to be, you then have we give you obviously a template that you write back and give your offer out to them. And that's when you explain your offer in detail and you explain your process. So, David, just clarify, when you go on site, do you actually tell them the process upfront when you meet them?
Sorry, can you say that again? A bit of noise at the back
That's
there.
all right. So, when you go and meet them on site and you see them, do you tell them about the whole subject to planning process at that point?
Yeah. You just sort of very openly explain that, as a developer, really, everything revolves around planning. And if we can get that planning as part of the purchase process, if they can give us the time that we need to get the planning, then, that can often drive a higher purchase price for the site than if they were, perhaps going to sell on the open market just without planning. So yeah, that's what I explain. Just sit down with them, explain very openly what we're looking to do. I, get into an agreement whereby we have some time to get that planning. You then quite quickly find out whether that's going to work for the vendor or not. Some it will work for, others it won't. Often, it might work very well for someone who's retiring, moving out the area. They're not retiring yet, but they know will want to move out of the area in a few years, or downsize or whatever. Sometimes works quite well for business owners. It comes back to the point about you do need to send out quite a lot of letters to find the number of leads that will then sort of convert to people who are willing to work with you.
But the key thing in this strategy as well, guys, in addition to what David just said, it's a numbers game. However, you only need 2 or 3 of these deals maximum in a year to make it worth its while, because the return on investment you make on these sort of deals is 2 or 3 times what you would make on a regular deal that you found in the open market once you've either got planning or you're competing with other people. So you only need 2 of those deals a year, I think, in my view.
Yeah, no, that's it. And it's we've got some sort of ratios. So, I reckon if you sort of send out about 100 letters, that'll convert to about 10 contacts. Some of those will fall away or just not interested. You'll have sort of 4 reasonably serious conversations, and one of those will turn into a deal. So that's the kind of ratios you're looking at.
Exactly. So my target on a monthly basis, I try and do 100 letters a month. Obviously, it's building up that momentum in the business as well, which you have over the last few years. So it takes time, but it's definitely, like I said, a strategy that we all must have as a must-have in any sort of property investment or development business. So I just wanted to quickly say hi to Patrick. Hi, Patrick, and thanks for joining us today. And do keep your questions. Present your questions to David and me as we go along the presentation. The next step, once you've written to them, obviously is, depending on your offer, they'll come back to you, obviously, with either a yes or a no, and you may have to tweak your offer ever so slightly. So that's just something that you will have to do in discussions with the vendor. You then, if, for example, it doesn't work at that point in time, you then keep in touch. And I think, what's the timescales we work at, David? Is it 8 weeks and then 16-week follow-up?
Yeah, so an 8-week and a 16-week follow-up. You'll generally get some sort of contact after the second or third letter. You rarely get contact after the first letter, so it's really important to do those follow-up letters. Then they would then go to a year follow-up. I'd write every year after that. If you've had contact with someone and it doesn't work for them for whatever reason, and we had this on the WhatsApp group, didn't we, from the last people who went through the course, what do we do about, keeping in touch with people? Really, you just want to sort of, if you've discussed the site with them and it doesn't work for them at the moment, perhaps their circumstances aren't right, they're not looking to move on quite yet, you just say, well, can I keep in touch? Can I come back to you in 6 months or 12 months? Most people are more than happy for you to give them a call or drop them another letter in 6 or 12 months. So you just sort of move them on to another sort of tab on your spreadsheet so that you're reminded to follow up in a year's time, because obviously circumstances change. And you've already sort of built some rapport with that person. It might well be that after 12 months they think, oh right, I'm ready to move now, or ready to sell the business, or whatever it is. Let's give David or Manni a call.
Key thing is keeping in touch, guys. So after you've done that, you then have you go into legals. Basically, you sign what we call a subject to planning contract, and obviously all solicitors are familiar with that. And you'll have a specific condition. So a deal that I'm going to be talking about in a couple of minutes is something that we did in Surbiton, and we did a subject to planning on one dwelling at the back of the shop. So those are, again, heads of terms as well that you need, because what is it, 2 or 3 pages document is just basically getting the buy-in from the owner before you go into the exchange, right?
That's it. It's just a plain English sort of version. The solicitors then sort of turn it into a sort of 15-page document. Yeah, and it's also, this can be done with an option agreement as well, but there's pros and cons to both, which I don't think we've got time to go into today.
But we'll talk about it on the course itself. So you have options and you have exchange of contracts subject to planning, but before that you sign the heads of terms, and then the contract, which the lawyer will convert the heads of terms into, as what David said, a conditional contract. That then goes ahead, which means you've secured the site legally, and then you go and put the planning in at the next step. The planning obviously is, you might hopefully get it first time, but you might have to go through it and tweak it. And then maybe worst case scenario, it might go to appeal, but we don't have time to cover all the details, but I'm just giving you a bit of flavor. And then finally you exit. Now, we've got 4 different exit strategies here. Hi, Sonia, as well. Just sort of giving a bit of shout out to people who joined us. So exit wise, guys, you have 4 different types of exits you can do. So firstly, for deal sourcers, this is a very important exit. Once you've signed the heads of terms, you could possibly sell the deal on to a developer who is, in a different position from you. So this is a great sort of way of doing the process and just selling the deal on for 1 or 2% commission. Possibly, I'd say 2 or 3% actually, because you've secured the deal and you've secured it at a particular price as well. So you've done a lot of the work up front. So I reckon 2 or 3% deal sourcing fee at the very least as a first exit. Second exit is you do the subject to planning and you actually get planning and you sell it with planning. So you've got the uplift there.
Yeah.
And that uplifts typically 30% or more, depending on what you can get. We then have, then the third exit strategy is you build it out. You either build it out yourself or you JV with someone who's got experience in building. And once you built it, you then have 2 options again. You either sell it, rent it, or part sell or rent. So suffice to say, you've got loads of options.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So that's really, guys, a flavor of the steps that we run on the course in detail, but just give you a bit of flavor of what it is. And then moving on very quickly, then shall we go into your deal, David?
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Manni. So yeah, this is just one of the sort of 11 types of sites that we sort of cover on the course. Which is corner plots, and fantastic thing about corner plots is they're absolutely everywhere. Any corner of a road there's a corner plot. Now, not all of them are going to be suitable for development, but the great thing about corner plots is they often have 2 vehicular accesses, so you can get 2 sets of parking on, which may well be critical to getting planning.
Yeah,
and you've got 2 frontages, so you can potentially tuck something round the side or in the garden, or extend a terrace, or a pair of semis, all sorts of things like that. This is an example of one I did a year or so back, and it was a large house. It had been extended extensively over the years. It was a little bit run down. The owner ran his business out of the property, so he'd actually built this quite large annex and garage on the side to store materials and all this sort of thing. And he'd also converted the roof space of that garage and annex, although not really strictly in accordance with planning and building regs. So there was a little bit of an issue there that he had to get round when he wanted to sell this house. So it comes back to the sort of the timing point. I happened to write to him at the right time. He moved out, he'd moved to a different property. He'd moved the business out because he'd bought a commercial unit. So now he kind of had to, he was sort of thinking about selling the property. It wasn't a massive rush, but he kind of had this bit of a problem because he didn't really have planning for the way he converted this or building regs. So, I kind of solved a problem there by sort of coming along and saying, well, I want to buy this subject to planning. Obviously, that would then take away the issues of the fact that he didn't already have planning, because we were going to go in and apply to convert this annex into a separate dwelling. And obviously, as part of the conversion, we deal with all the building regs issues anyway. So yeah.
And just a point to make there, David, as well. So had this person sold this property on an open market, they would find it quite difficult because they wouldn't have the paperwork for the annex part of the building. So if they were expecting a bit of an uplift because of that, they wouldn't have got it. And plus, I think legals would have been issues. They would have had to have some sort of indemnity policy that the buyers would have to take out and all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it always comes down to sort of solving problems, doesn't it, for vendors? And we were able to sort of solve a problem there. So this is what we did. We effectively took this garage and annex, and we got planning permission to actually turn it into 2 dwellings. Actually, one unit here with a kitchen diner and a bedroom upstairs and an ensuite, and here another unit with kitchen diner downstairs, bedroom and ensuite.
So was it the front of the unit was a flat and another flat at the back?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're kind of duplex flats, really. I mean, yeah, duplex flats, tiny houses that, don't know how you describe them exactly, but yeah.
Two bedroom flats or 1 bedroom?
Just 1 beds, yeah. Yeah. So this is the work in progress. Obviously, we blocked up the garage doors here. There's a front door going in, dormers going in. This is viewed from the other side. So we created some parking here. So each unit had 2 parking spaces.
You kept the structure, David, yeah? You kept the structure and then you built on it, basically, and made it building regs compliant.
That's right, yeah. We added the dormers to add a bit of head height in the roof upstairs part. Yeah. And this is how it turned out. Turned out really nicely, actually. We sort of clad the front of the old garage area. This is how we sort of fitted it out. And it's a bit of an odd one because we actually bought the house as our house and then did the conversion. So we were able to remortgage and separate out the plot for a sort of nominal sum of £60,000. So we effectively kind of bought the site, if you like, for £60,000. These are some of the numbers here. Legal and professional fees, 7,500. Total development costs, just under 120. Finance costs, 8,000. So our total costs are 195, round figures. And then the 2 units valued up at 200,000 each.
So your profit you made was about 200,000 just on those 2 flats, basically using the garage, rebuilding it out, complying with planning and building regs, and those flats were valued at 200 grand each.
400, yeah, that's right. And then we remortgaged onto 75% loan to value, so got a mortgage of 300,000, which released to sort of 100,000 to sort of move on to the next project, and left 100,000 in as equity.
Oh, okay. So you left some in equity, but you still had money to carry on and move on. So total money in?
Well, we covered all our costs, and then we built an extra 100,000 in equity and took 100,000 out as well. So,
brilliant. Fantastic.
Yeah, it was great.
So great return on investment. Would you say roughly what was your return on investment on that?
This one was it's kind of an infinite one, really, because we actually took money out. We didn't leave any money in this one.
No money in.
Yeah, there's
no money left in deal, guys. I mean, you hear about it in the Midlands and up north and stuff, but in the Southeast, how often can you get these sort of deals? Very rare.
It's just fantastic, isn't it, when you can do a deal like that, because it just gives you momentum. That money. Okay, you tie up some sort of funds. We borrowed money from private investors to do the build on this one. So you do tie up some money for a time, but then you get the money back out, and you move on to the next project.
I mean, the beauty is, guys, developing your own expertise. You even get investors throwing money at you because they know what you're doing, and so you pretty much no money in, no money left in the deal, and you made 200 grand profit. I mean, I don't think you can get better than this, guys.
Yeah, so, I wish I could do those every day, I must admit, but they're not easy to come by, but when you know what you're looking for, they can be done.
Absolutely. So moving on to the next one, then, is that my project?
Yes, over to you, Manni.
So guys, I'm just going to quickly share a project that I'm currently in the midst of. So here, not sure if you can see the cursor on the live show, but this is just a shop. It's a vacant shop on a high street, and it was derelict. It had been vacant for many, many years. And as you can see at the back, I don't know if you can see this little gray access at the back of the shop, which I think Dave is just kind of kindly showing that cursor going there. And so the shop was vacant and there was a yard at the back, which Dave is just putting his cursor on as well. So shop with a yard. What we did was we negotiated the price with the vendor. This is just to give you an internal view, but we negotiated a price and we did a subject to planning contract, subject to getting a dwelling at the back. So these are the plans, some of the plans that we submitted to the planning in lockdown last year of 2020. And without even a site visit, we got the planning permission to build a 2-bedroom flat at the back. So that just gives you a flavor of what the project is. Moving on swiftly, just to give you an idea of numbers, we bought it for 320. We exchanged in sort of early part of, I think it was about January 2020, subject to planning. We secured the planning around April time, and then we completed the purchase in around June 2020. The numbers wise, bought it for 320. The works are costed about 130 grand. We are estimating the GDV at a very, very conservative value of 615. But to be fair, we had an agent value it a couple of weeks ago, and the flat was being valued at just over 500, which even if you take it with a pinch of salt, is a lot more than we'd actually put in here with the numbers at 400. So let's say we get it even 450 plus shop value. And because the shop's only a small shop with about 400 square feet, it's under the business rates threshold. There seems to be that a lot of interest at that sort of entry level point. It would be a great shop for a sort of independent business, a local mom and pop type of business. So this is the numbers there, guys, and you can go back and refer to it on the live later. Moving on swiftly, we've got a question here quickly. I'll take one from Patrick before we move on. So Patrick's question is, Manni, you said you send out 100 letters every month. Do you find these vendors via Nimbus alone, or do you look in other areas? So as for me, I just purely use Nimbus Maps. David, what about you?
Yeah, Nimbus Maps is the tool I use, but I think it's also quite important to know your area if you can. If you know, I typically want to start local, you know, just because you know the area, know the numbers. So you know, actually sort of whilst you get the hang of what to look for, it is actually worth sort of walking around or cycling around and looking for some of these sites, because then you can actually sort of go back to your desk and look at them on Nimbus, and you can kind of see what they look like on Nimbus and what they, you know, cross-reference that with what you've seen by walking around. And then once you've kind of got the feel for things, you can, you know, probably spread your wings a little bit wider, knowing what to look for in Nimbus. So yeah, Nimbus does a huge amount, and we sort of cover, you know, all the due diligence that it can help you with on the course. But you know, a bit of you know, local knowledge is also
investigation. Yeah, exactly. So I think, Patrick, the answer to your question is Nimbus is great for the online due diligence and looking at the different angles from it, because it gives you a very easy look, and it also has all the facts in there. But you know, I think there's also a sort of a point that Dave is trying to make, is you must visit those local areas and try and get a feel of, you know, of the properties in the area as well. So hope that answers your question. Moving swiftly on, this just gives you a bit of oversight and the overview of the construction process and the stages of construction, creating the outer shell of the new build once we've created the foundation. Swiftly moving along to the next slide. This is where we are at right now. The actual shell alongside with the windows and the roof windows is all completed. Internals are all being done. We're at second fix stage. So plastering and everything is complete. Electrics, heating, and at second fix. Next slide, please.
I think that wraps us up. We're then into, yeah, talking about our
perfect. So we're nearly at the end of our web live sort of webinar, as it were. So guys, just wanted to share with you a one-day training course that we are running. And on this course, we're going to be covering the 10-step process that we just talked about, from finding to exiting. 11 different types of site finding strategies, 2 of which we covered today. The corner plot strategy and the class M, which is the back of the shop. We then cover the financial aspect of it, what you should be looking at, how you negotiate with the owners, and a complete comprehensive list of tools, templates, documents you need. And the bonuses that we give you are the 14-day free trial to Nimbus, £180 discount to the annual Nimbus subscription, and a free follow-up webinar for 2 hours with David and me, 14 days after the course typically, which gives you time to get the hang of Nimbus and then come back to us 2 weeks later on a free webinar, which is included in the ticket price. So guys, if you book directly on the Eventbrite link, it will go at $499, but we're offering it at a 40% discount for those who go through either the free 90-minute webinar or the live YouTube session today. So you've got the link there to book your tickets. The course is running on next Saturday, the 20th of March, from 9:30 to 4:30. So it's a full-on day and there's a lot of content. But the good news is if you do buy the ticket, you get a password protected recording of it. But obviously we obviously expect you to respect our privacy and not share it with anyone, because it's only for people who've paid for the course, as you can appreciate that. There's a lot of time, effort, and gone into creating the content, and a lot of experience, actually, years and years of experience, all in that content that you receive on the day, guys. So on that note, guys, I think we can stop sharing. And if there are any questions, we'll wait for another minute or so to have any questions. But I'm going to put the link for the course on there. We're also running a webinar, a free 90-minute webinar, which we're going to expand on what we talked about in the YouTube session today on Monday the 15th from 7 to 8:30. And I'll put the link of that webinar as well. So hope to see you guys either on the free webinar on Monday the 15th of March or 20th of March, which is the whole day course. If you're really serious about direct to vendor, guys, and either deal sourcing it, creating the panning uplift, or building them out and creating the bloodline in your business for a pipeline of deals, this is definitely a course that we recommend you do. And thanks for joining, really, and thanks for your support today. Hope you've enjoyed that session and hope you found that useful, and we shall hope to see you soon.